Snow fell thick over the prison camp, swallowing every sound but the clink of chains and the low growl of guards' voices. Elijah Jackson stood in line, frost clinging to his eyelashes, his breath a ghost in the air. Everyone thought they knew what would happen that day, but what came next, no one could have imagined. The guard barked his name, and the whole camp seemed to stop breathing. Before the war, Elijah's world was smaller, but it was his own. He dreamed of building airplanes, not flying them into battle. But dreams had a way of being drafted too. When the letters came, he didn't think about segregation. He thought about serving his country. But from the moment he stepped into training camp, the lines were drawn in the dust. Separate mess halls, separate bunks, separate in everything, except the danger waiting ahead. Still, Elijah marched, learned, and waited for the day he could prove them wrong. Then came the order that would set everything in motion. His first deployment. He was sent not to fight, but to load ammunition for the men who could. Every night, Elijah wrote letters home, letters he never knew would be kept as evidence. Then, one quiet morning, the accusation came, and the war became personal. They said a crate of ammunition went missing. They said Elijah was the last one seen near it. No trial, no questions, just orders. Hold him until further notice. Days blurred into nights. The only sound, the boots of the guard outside. Word spread through the camp, and not all believed the story they'd been told. One man dared to speak up, a mechanic named Harris. Harris told them what he'd seen, a white officer near the supply yard that morning. That night, Harris vanished, and with him, Elijah's last hope of proving his innocence. The guards tightened their watch. Even his meals came late, colder than the night air. But Elijah kept writing, not knowing the letters would be intercepted. One morning, a new officer arrived, Captain Williams, eyes sharp, voice sharper. He promised a fair hearing, but his smirk told another story. The hearing was set, in a tent, on the edge of camp, far from prying eyes. Witnesses were called, all white, all telling the same rehearsed story. When Elijah spoke, they barely looked at him. Then, from the back of the tent, a voice interrupted. A nurse named Clara. She claimed she'd seen Harris, alive, 2 days ago. But before she could say more, the guards escorted her out. That was the moment Elijah knew. They weren't looking for the truth. The verdict was to be read at dawn, under the gray skies of a war-torn morning. Elijah stood tall, wrists bound, as the officer unfolded the paper. But before a word was spoken, gunfire erupted from the west. Enemy forces had broken through, and in the confusion, Harris appeared. He shouted Elijah's name, pointing to a damaged jeep that had trapped him for days. The officers froze, their lie exposed for all to see. But there was no time for justice. The enemy was closing in. Elijah broke free, grabbed a rifle, and fought beside the very men who'd condemned him. By nightfall, the attack was over, and so was the case against him. History may call it a victory, but for Elijah, it was only proof that some battles never end. The war ended. The guns fell silent. But inside Elijah, the battle raged on. They gave him a medal, as if metal could erase the nights he spent in chains. People shook his hand, smiling, never knowing the truth behind his silence. Years later, his story would be tucked away, between dusty pages and fading photographs. But history has a strange way of repeating itself, even when we refuse to see it. Different uniforms, different times, same fight. History may change its clothing, but the truth beneath often stays the same. What do you think? Has the world truly changed? Or are we still fighting the same war?